Do the Louisville Cardinals need another star in the front court?
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All you have to do, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Just patiently waiting for some more Louisville men's basketball roster news. We haven't heard much lately after Kasean Pryor announced that he is returning and James Scott entering the portal. We're going to answer whether or not the Louisville Cardinals need another star in the front court. We'll take a look at this discussion from all angles. The reasons for bringing in another star, the reasons against. Do they actually need one? How likely is it that they could add a star to the front court? All angles. We'll also take a look at what Javon Hadley's role might look like in 2025-26. But we begin by answering the simple question. Well, it might be simple to some it's much more complex. I've had the same answer since Kasean Pryor announced his return. The question is, do the Louisville Cardinals absolutely need a front court star? A player that's going to make a huge difference, that if you don't have a star in the front court or another star in the front court, it's going to limit your ceiling. It's going to drastically hurt your season. I don't think that Pat Kelsey's team needs another front court star. Let me go ahead and get that out of the way. But it is a huge discussion amongst Louisville fans right now, whether or not Louisville should pursue another star. When I say star, I mean a guy that could potentially start. He's going to play a ton of closing minutes. He will be one of the top scoring options on this team. I think that there are some compelling arguments on both sides. So we're going to break down each side. And we'll start with the why Louisville should go after another star in the front court. And I think it starts out with my my viewpoint that you always stockpile talent when you can. You always try to make your team better when you can. And if this team is 100% going all in, they're pushing their chips to the center of the table. They said, you know what? We went out and we got 3 elite guard options out of the portal. We're bringing in the number 1 point guard in the high school class. We're bringing in one of the most promising international recruits who is a borderline 5-star level player. We're bringing Kasean Pryor and Javon Hadley back. Let's go ahead and just go all in, because opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. You don't know how many chances you are going to have legitimately at a national title. I mean, the preferable answer is every season, but at this point, you just don't know that. So strike while the iron's hot. Stockpile talent while you have the roster to be able to push yourself towards national championship contention. And I have been a firm believer in that. And I'm pretty vocal that, of course, the fit has to make sense. Like, there are some rosters in college basketball that I'm watching these particular rosters finalized, and I'm like, man, I don't understand how this roster fits together. One of those rosters being Kansas last year. Number 1 preseason team, had a great portal class, but it just didn't make sense the way their roster was put together. I don't get that vibe here with the Cardinals. I feel like Pat Kelsey has surgically and meticulously put this roster together where there is a ton of shooting, a ton of ball handling, and a ton of versatility. If you go out and get a player that checks off a couple of boxes out there, then, hey, I think that you're making the team better. And of course, there are some concerns, and we will go in depth on those concerns in the second segment, I promise. So just give it a moment and allow me to voice the arguments that I feel like are justified of bringing in another star. And like I said, you're trying to check some boxes off. If you can go out there and get a player that is a good point of attack defender, or a player that is a good rim protector, or can do a little bit of both, or you bring in a player that has a ton of athleticism and can get downhill and has a ton of toughness and gets to the basket. I think all of these qualities that I've listed off are actively ones that the Cardinals could use more of. Like, Louisville doesn't really have a ton of rim protection at the moment, although I think Sananda Fru can be that guy. More on that coming up here in just a minute. But I think that you need more point of attack defenders. I think Pryor can be one. I think Javon Hadley is one. I think that you have Michael Brown Jr., who is a better defender at the point guard spot than advertised, but still, I feel like the Cardinals still could use some more on-ball defense. You're good in the shooting department, although you can never have too many shooters. I think you're good in the ball handling department. I think that the guard spot is off limits. Like, that's finalized. You're only talking about the front court here. And I'm talking about the 4 and the 5, even though we're playing positionless basketball. But I'm also looking at maybe the wing spot, right? I mean, there's a couple ways you can address the traditional front court, but it really just depends because you have some versatility. Some guys can play either spot. I think that the third reason for bringing in another front court star is that you have some uncertainties. We like to hope that Kasean Pryor is going to return from his ACL tear and be the guy that we saw early in the season moving well. But you just never know with injuries. He hasn't played organized basketball, or he won't have played organized basketball in a year when he steps foot on the court for Louisville next season. So, yes, he's had ample time of recovery, but a lot of these are mental, right, as well as physical. So you're banking on Kasean Pryor coming back and still being himself. And I'm not suggesting that he's not going to be, but you don't have 1,000% confirmation that he is going to be. Looking at the other situations, you don't have a ton of depth overall at the 4 and the 5 because you did lose James Scott. So there are some minutes open, some playing time that you could pitch to another star. Sananda Fru, as good as I think he's going to be, many have pointed out, he's not a surefire star because he's coming over from overseas, hasn't played college basketball. You don't know how that transition is going to work. Ali Khalifa hasn't played organized basketball in over a year, even though he has slimmed down and transformed his body. He hasn't. All these are good rebuttals. So if you want to give yourself some insurance and some valuable depth, I think that that's where maybe you look to add another star level guy. Although I think that this front court is talented enough. And that's kind of how I want to transition into the next segment. There's not a huge doubt in my mind here. The Cardinals need more bodies in the front court. Like, losing James Scott, you have to replace him. I don't know, with 10 players right now, you have 2 legitimate centers. You have 1 true power forward in Kasean Pryor. You have Javon Hadley, who can play the 3 or the 4. Kenai Roots can do the same if you need him to. But outside of that, you need more front court bodies. If you decide to go out there and you get a younger option out of the portal, or you go get an international player that you know is probably not going to be like a surefire star, but they can also provide valuable minutes off the bench, well, I think that's what you need, really. I think that that's sort of a non-negotiable for me. Like, I think you need that. Whether or not you need a star is a whole different conversation? I think that answer is no. You just need someone that's going to be able to give you depth off the bench, because currently you have 10 scholarships. You can't roll into next season with just 10. And I'm not suggesting that Pat Kelsey's going to do that. I think that they're definitely looking for some other players. But I don't really think at this moment you need a star. I think that you need depth. You need bodies in that room that when their number is called, they can get in the game and give you good minutes. Let's take a look at some reasons against bringing in another star in the front court. We'll identify and explain those reasons when we come back on this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. But first, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, because FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win large. For me, if I look at getting a $200 bonus in bets added to the excitement if my first $5 bet hits, well, that's a no-brainer for me. Take advantage of this. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up and head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, because if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Card Nation, I want to take the time to thank you all again for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. For those out there that had some issues with finding the recording on audio platforms, we've got that figured out for Monday's show. I apologize for that inconvenience, but that has been worked out, so you should be able to find Monday's episode on all audio streaming services. If you can't tell, we've worked through some of the wrinkles of the very thin flag that is right behind me, the For the Ville flag. We're going to continue to try to work through that out. It's just a really thin material, so have to be extremely careful. Appreciate your patience on that. And like I said, I'm open to segment suggestions. Be sure to drop those in the YouTube comments below. If someone has already commented your suggestion, just like that user's comment so I can see which segments people are wanting to hear talked about the most. But this has been one that we're talking about now that has dominated discussion because there's not a ton of news right now. Louisville went out and they identified their top targets. They were selective and they got their top targets. So it's just been a matter of hurry up and waiting. We're going to take a look at the rebuttals now, the reasons against bringing in another front court star. And I think that this is where I kind of look at this and I side with more of this segment than I did last segment. I think that Louisville doesn't need another front court star, but if Pat Kelsey can make it work, I'm all here for it. Some reasons why I don't think you need another star and you just need to add depth is because, number one, you do have Kasean Pryor, but I am a huge believer in Sananda Fru. Just won an award for the Young Player of the Year in the Basketball Bundesliga League, which is a top 5 league in Europe. He's been playing fantastic, not even really comparable to how he was playing just months ago. He's getting better and better. The post-up game, running the floor. He's got a couple posters. I think he's going to be able to go from a really high-level basketball in Europe, and he's going to come to the United States where I don't think that basketball is as technically advanced. Like there's not a ton of, or there's not as much movement in the American college game as there is European ball. I think that the only thing that Fru is going to potentially need some time to get adjusted to is, number one, the just the overall terms of the system that he's playing, the verbiage, and number two, just the contrastingly different style of play. But once he gets locked in, I think he's going to be great for Louisville. I also think that a lack of minutes and a lack of a role are kind of hindering Louisville's need to go after a front court star, because you brought in 3 elite level guard options via the portal. You have the number 1 point guard in the country in the high school class coming in, and you also return Kobe Rogers. That's 5 guard options. I imagine that the Cardinals are going to play a ton of 3 guard lineups. So what that means in turn is that there aren't that many opportunities for front court guys. So you imagine that Kasean Pryor is going to start, likely Sananda Fru, or maybe Ali Khalifa, or potentially Pryor at the 5 and Hadley at the 4. There's so many different combinations, but you have the options. Like, you have 10 legit players on this roster that are ready to play. Can you throw in a star into the mix? And if it's at the 5 spot, that's probably the most likely. But at this moment, there aren't that many options out there that are clear-cut upgrades at the 5 spot. And if they are, there's probably a huge bidding war for them. Now, I know that every single year when players declare for the draft while maintaining college eligibility, sometimes you don't know that they're in the portal until they say they're coming back to college, and then boom, really good option enters the portal. Grant Nelson's one of those names that comes to mind. North Dakota State or South Dakota State, one of the two. I think it's North Dakota State. Went to the portal. Went to the portal without anyone knowing, but went to the draft as well. Took his name out of the draft and then transferred to Alabama, where he was a key part in the Final Four team. So there's that, but at the moment, there's just not that many options. But that's the most likely, because are you going to bring in a star at the 4 and move Pryor to the 5? And then you have to make that work where maybe Khalifa and Fru can, like I said, all these guys can coexist, but you're making things challenging. Or do you go and look for a wing? But what that means is you limit the guard play, because Isaac McNeely, Ryan Conwell, and Adrian Woolley didn't come to Louisville to be afterthoughts. They came to play a good amount of minutes. Like, one of the rebuttals is, well, Pat Kelsey plays a system that really values substituting. Yes, he does. Let's take a look at 23-24 for College of Charleston. 10 players played over 30 games for the Cougars that year. Okay? 2 of them averaged under 12 minutes a game. Another one averaged under 20. I think you're going to see a shift to where the guards, Conwell, Woolley, McNeely, Michael, probably are all going to play 25 minutes a game. And Kobe Rogers is going to get some time. The only way that that's possible is to play 3 guard lineups. It's not always going to be that way, but in theory, that's how it's likely going to work. Then you have to look at the front court and say, okay, are you comfortable? Like, you have to go out and get a surefire star at the wing spot if you are going to take those Kenai Ruth's minutes. Because if you bring in a star, that means that Hadley and Ruth's are going to be contending a ton for those backup minutes, and not to mention any other front court options that you might add. I think that another aspect of this that people aren't really grasping is, I think it's going to be hard to convince another star level guy to come to Louisville, because it's a really crowded rotation right now. You're saying, okay, well, we're going to have to play a ton of 3 guard lineups. You have Javon Hadley, you have Kasean Pryor. You're going to have to sacrifice a little bit. You're not going to play 30 to 35 minutes a night. It's more going to be like 25 maybe. And even then, you're going to have to sacrifice. So even if the NIL money aspect makes sense from both sides, are you going to be able to convince a star level guy to come to Louisville with as crowded of a roster this is? That's why I think it's unlikely that they bring in another surefire star. I think that the most likely option is going out there and adding 2 to 3 more players. I'd like to get another international guy, a younger player that can play this year, but has multiple years of college eligibility that he can be ready to play in 26, 27. I would also like to bring in transfers that you believe in the upside, or maybe high school seniors out there, or who knows, reclassification or reclassified players that, look, you're trying to build a little bit for the future. And the way that you do that is get some players at the end of your rotation that every single night their number's probably not being called. But when you need them, if injuries happen, which they do, we saw that last year. If foul trouble occurs, which it does, it's happened multiple times last year, you have valuable pieces to be able to come off the bench and be able to play a certain role. So does Louisville need another front court star? I don't think so. Would I welcome one if they wanted to bring one in? Yeah, makes things a little bit more difficult to manage in terms of minutes, as long as that player doesn't destroy the locker room chemistry. But I'm okay if you just add some depth level guys. When we come back, let's take a look at what Javon Hadley's role might look like for next season. But first, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more experts to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including AI, IT, web development, and marketing. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results time and time again. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. And also, before we get into the final segment, want to shed some light on what's going to happen the rest of the week. I can't really speak for Thursday and Friday, but Wednesday, we will have host of The Portal on the Locked On Podcast Network, Brian Smith, national recruiting analyst for football, come on to the show and give his thoughts on Louisville's transfer portal class. Be sure to tune in to that for tomorrow's episode. We've gone throughout the roster for the returning players or guys coming off injuries and talking about what their respective roles might look like next season. I think Javon Hadley's role, or potential role, I should clarify, is one that keeps me guessing, because I think that it ultimately depends on how you fill out this roster. If you go out and get maybe a backup wing or a backup 4, then I think he's going to play the other role that is not filled. Let's take a look at what he did this year. He had to do much more than we likely thought. He averaged 33.1 minutes per game. He played in all of 35 games, started all 35, averaged 12.2 points per night, 52% from the field, 38% from 3 on 2.5 attempts, and 77% from the free throw line. Was a little bit of a step back from the year before at Colorado, but still career high in rebounds at 7.3. He averaged 1.8 assists per game, 0.7 steals, 0.2 blocks, and 1.6 turnovers. Javon Hadley is an ultimate glue guy. There's something to be said about players that understand their role and can execute their role to the fullest. They don't try to do too much for the most part, and they don't try to do too little. But they do just right. I had a buddy of mine text me, I think it was at the end of the season, saying that, we need to move on from Javon Hadley because he's not a star. And I text back, I literally said, LMAO. All caps. LMAO. And my buddy kind of got a little defensive. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, you don't need Javon Hadley to be a star, but you need Javon Hadley. You're telling me that you wouldn't take a player that has been here for a season with a somewhat new roster, a guy that can help instill that culture for the new guys, a player that knows your system, a veteran that has played a ton of college basketball, that knows his role, can score in double digits, high effort, high motor, high energy player. You wouldn't take that just because he's not a star. No one ever said Javon Hadley was a star. Javon Hadley is a high-end role player that executes his role, and he is a guy that you need on winning teams. This whole mindset of everyone has to be a star, guys get paid in the NBA for executing roles. Yeah, of course, star-level players get, hundreds of millions of dollars. But role players get paid because they are great at what they do. It's exactly what Javon Hadley does. And I think that his role is going to look more the same in 2025-26 with a little bit less usage. Could he start? He could. I don't predict that he will, although some do, and I'm okay with that. I think that if you were to ask me what my starting lineup would be today, it's Michael, it is Ryan Conwell. I'm going to say McNeely with Woolley as the sixth man. Kasean Pryor, Sananda Fru. And you have Woolley and Javon Hadley as those guys coming off the bench, but they play a good amount of minutes. Like, could Hadley be a closer for this team? Without a doubt. Not doubting that at all. I would suggest that might be the thing. Great for small ball. He can be a small ball 4 when you need him. I think we had an argument off air about whether or not he's better as a 3 or a 4. I don't care. He plays a good role and can shoot the 3, can defend well, versatile on defense, willing and capable rebounder, and can bang down low when you need him to. So I don't think he's going to be playing I don't think he's going to be playing 35 minutes a night. I think that it's more going to look like 25 minutes a night. I think Javon Hadley is going to play a lot. I don't think that you convince him to come back if you don't sort of lay out that plan for him. So I think that Hadley, another reason why bringing in a front court star doesn't really make a ton of sense because you have a ton of options already. I think that Hadley is going to be that locker room culture leader on the court, leader in the locker room, the guy that maintains this team's identity on the court, that hard-nosed, you're not going to push me off my spot. You're not going to make me look weak type mentality. And he brings that swagger. Kasean Pryor brings that swagger. We saw that last year. You want to see that again this year. Again, it's going to be more the same of a portion of this fan base underappreciating what Javon Hadley brings to this team. There could be a level where he starts and he plays over 25 minutes a night because he is that glue guy. And when you have other players that can be the go-to scorers, I think that that's when Javon Hadley can do what he does best. That is going to wrap up this Tuesday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Almost to 4,000 YouTube subscribers. So grateful for that. So appreciative of you all. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.